What's up, everybody? TJK Ryder here, and I wanted to change things up in this one and get a little bit more personal and just kind of switch up of like the stuff I've been doing, and I really wanted to talk about this subject. Now, I don't know how many people are going to see this or care about the video, but this is something I really wanted to talk about, and yeah, let's get into it. Working at a retail store was completely miserable and soul-sucking, and if you guys have ever worked retail, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I was an overnight stalker at Walmart, and it was basically like any other warehouse job. I was either in the back putting stickers on boxes and tagging them so they can go up on the shelf, or I was actually out on the sales floor. Like I was mostly out on the sales floor, which is like the actual store, stocking product for customers. And this was my first real job too. And let me tell you, this was the most fucking bullshit, awful, soul sucking corporate piece of shit company that I ever worked for, and just retail stores in general are almost all the same anyways. They started me out stocking like grocery aisles and shit, and I was doing grocery aisles for about, let's say, 4 to 6 months, and then they put me by myself eventually, and I was the pets guy. So like all your dog food, cat food, everything, all those big ass heavy dog bags, that was my job to stock all that. And don't get me wrong, I actually really did like that. I liked the labor and hard work of it all. But what I'm going to get to in a minute and what really pissed me off was the management and the overall workers and experience there. A lot of people say this about their jobs, but specifically me, I'm not bullshitting. I was probably their best worker, at least for the like my shift rotation. I was easily their best worker. I was always outworking everybody, but that was the mistake I did, and the number one mistake was working too hard, and they ended up using me for everything I had. And then when everything went wrong, or whenever I didn't get an insurmountable work done that they wanted me to get done, they would all blame it on me. So I worked an 8 hour shift, technically nine, but 1 hour of it was lunch. So we worked 8 hours, and at Walmart, they time you on the amount of freight you throw, which is like the term throwing is stocking. So they want you to stock a certain amount of freight in their time period and what they think's best. Like I said earlier, I made the mistake of going overboard and doing above and beyond. And this was my first job. It was the honeymoon phase, so I wanted to show that I was a good worker. But this was the worst thing I could have done because they started giving me 12 hours worth of work in an 8 hour shift, and I would actually get that done. Then they went up to 16 and 20 hours worth of work in one single 8 hour shift. And like I said, stocking the pets in the 40 and 50 pound bags all night for 8 hours straight when there's 16 hours worth of freight to throw was pretty insane. And it's fun for a while until you get about 4 or 5 hours in, and you're just, like I said, it was overnights. So it's 3 a.m., you're throwing 50-pound bags, you've been at it for 5 hours, and your body's just so fucking tired. And since they were going to use me for all I had, and they were just abusing me and kind of using me as a slave, I was hoping to get at least a promotion up to like a team lead and actually be a good team lead and help out my associates and shit. But I never even got that because there's two guys specifically that were leads that would never want to move up out of their position. One was a team lead for 11 years. He had opportunity to move up or leave, and he never did, and he was just content there. And he was just basically hogging up the position. And this pissed me off so much because there was no opportunity to grow or to get promoted. At my job, we had a total of four leads, which are like assistant managers. They walked around the store and they would check on you every 30 to 45 minutes like you were a third grader that was not doing good at recess and that you were being a bad boy. And then you had the two coaches, which were like actual managers, and you had one coach for each shift. And around my last 2 months of working there, they started giving me so many hours worth of work, and I wasn't getting it done, right? And then every night they'd come by and ask me, like, what's the problem and why I'm not getting it done. And also, when I'm doing pets, this was me by myself. No, I had no help, right? This was me doing all this shit all night by myself, which again was kind of cool, right? Working by yourself's nice. But when they come by and say that you're doing a shit job or what's the problem, why ain't you getting 30 hours of work done in 8, that's when I have a huge issue. And these team leads and coaches would walk around all night, like I said, checking in on you and reprimanding you like you're doing a bad job, or they'd come by and just give you a mean mug, all quiet and shit, just making sure you're getting your job done every 30 minutes, and they would never jump in and do shit at all to help. If they wanted something done, they would get mad at you and tell you to do it, but they would never do it themselves because they're too pussy to do it. And I hate it because they had so much power over us and they wanted stuff done how they wanted it, but they would never do it themselves. And they would always blame other people for their own shit job of coaching and leading. The way I saw some of these managers and higher ups treat the older workers specifically, they treated these older workers like complete garbage and that they're a waste of space. And there was one really cool older guy named Raphael that I trained, and he was the coolest guy ever. He had like really bad lung sickness. I don't know what if it was cancer, but he was sick and he just was trying to work for some extra money. And they ended up firing him a month in because he wasn't meeting their time. And of course, they had their little buddy buddies and their favorite workers. They played favorites a lot. And if you weren't their favorite worker, they would treat you like absolute human scum. And I wasn't, right? I'd show up, get my job done, get out of there. I was one of the quiet good workers. I was just didn't really talk to people. I'm not just not how I am, right? But I wasn't a weirdo either. I made a couple good friends there, and the worst part was the favorites by far, dude. This one right here really angered me, and this is what I mean about how they played favorites. Some dude came in that I was working with, came in hammered as shit, just drunk out of his mind. He was driving too, by the way, at night. So he was working drunk and driving drunk, and then the managers caught him, and they're like, "Ah, no big deal. Just don't do it again, and you're fine." And since I wasn't friends with them, and if I was like 20 minutes late on my work, or if I did something a little bit wrong, they would look at me with such disgust. And it's just funny talking about this and then them letting the drunk guy off the hook. It just baffles me. If you're working in a team group, because sometimes they had us working in teams, or you're like in a frozen area where you needed 4 or 5 people to work, and there's one or two guys that are slacking off, not doing a good job, they come up to the best worker in that group. Most of the times it was me if I was in a team, and they'd be like, "What's the problem? Why aren't we getting stuff done?" And I'm just sitting here throwing as fast as I can, getting my work done, and I'm just wondering why they're not talking to the people that aren't doing their job. It's fucking awful being better at your job than the actual managers and leads, and then they're the ones to reprimand you and tell you how good or bad you're doing, even though they would never in a million years do whatever I did, let alone get close to the type of work I put in. In my last month working there, I was just so checked out at this point, and I barely was getting my work done. I was getting it done, just not really any care for it, right? And I did give them a whole month's notice. And whenever I told them, I feel like that like triggered them to just say, "All right, give this man all the work he can because he's out of here, and let's just use him for what he has." It's crazy too because on my last day, and I remember this clearly, they said you had 24 hours worth of work to do of pets, and the funny part was them thinking that I was gonna try, let alone get it done on my last day working there for that shit company. And just seeing their faces at the end when it was like maybe 70% done and not completely done, they were scrambling so hard and they were just like stressed, and it was just hilarious. And this was just a little bit of my feelings working retail. And I have so much more crazy shit to talk about from working at Walmart and all the crazy stories that went on like while I was working there. So if you guys want to hear more of that, let me know down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, I'll upload way more too. This was just like a little like a teaser. Let's just say that. I have so much more to talk about, but just I wanted to get this off my chest, dude. Working retail sucks, and I would really advise, if you guys can, to never work there. It's good for starting money and if you have nothing else, but that's it. Thank you all for watching and tuning into this video. I know it's a bit of a long one, but just you guys watching and your support means a lot, so thank you again. I'm TJK Ryda, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.